Shit response to your ReZero takes. I love it when, goddamn. Alright. No, that's okay. That's okay. People get super defensive over ReZero because the infants who, like, watch anime as their main type of media have, like, no... They're so, like, trope-brained that, like, any deviation from tropes in any way, shape, or form, like, it comes off as, like, god-tier writing to them. It's the same reason why Madoka Magica is so popular. But Madoka Magica is way better than ReZero. So, like, ReZero will be like, we're gonna subvert the isekai having a dopey protag who all the girls fall in love with, show. We're gonna subvert it by having it be slightly angstier than usual. We're gonna subvert the genre by making it a little extra angsty, okay? Wow. And now anime fans treat it like it's a fucking masterwork. I was like that when I was 14, making me cringe right now. Dude, there's nothing wrong with being cringe at 14. That's what being 14 is all about. Don't worry about it. The main thing that really bothers me, I guess, is that I feel like there are very, very few anime where the protagonist is charismatic, and I just really miss that, you know? Like, I like it when protagonists are impressive when they do impressive things. I don't like it when protagonists are unimpressive, but they do impressive things. And that's all ReZero is. The main protagonist is like a loser who sucks in, like, every way, but he keeps doing really impressive shit. It's like, okay, thank you, we get it. You're an isekai, it's all about, like, pandering. Phenomenal, great, you know? But I want to have an impressive protag. And I feel like there's, like, very rarely real charisma in anime because they do such a bad job transposing. Yeah.
The person who made Killer 7 is the same person who made No More Heroes. He is Suda51. He also helped make Lollipop Chainsaw with the help of James Gunn, I think.
I'm familiar with the legend of Suda51. Don't worry. Definitely a distinctive flavor. Lollipop Chainsaw kind of sucked, though. I never played No More Heroes, but it didn't look that good to me. Killer 7's supposed to be really good. That's one of the things that I actually really liked about Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's that Aang is legitimately a really impressive kid. Korra wasn't. Korra is impressive in the sense that she's ambitious, aggressive, and strong. But that's like mook strength. Like, that's the kind of strength you get from, like, the brutish, like, thug boss on level 1. But Aang was, like, strong in a meaningful character, like, driven sense, if that makes any sense. Like, Korra was kind of a meathead. I understand that Korra being aggressive is meant to be a foil to Aang being very peaceful, but I feel like they could have done it a bit better, because there were times when Korra comes off as kind of dumb, you know? Like, Aang came off as naive, but he was literally frozen for 100 years. Korra was raised by, like, the fucking Illuminati. Maybe being dumb was part of her character. I'm not saying I have a problem with, like, the concept of dumb... I don't know, of dumb characters existing or anything like that. It's more like so often, like, so much impressive shit gets done by characters that aren't that impressive themselves. So anyway, I really like it. I guess the issue is, like, most of these stories in anime or whatever else are so rooted in, like, the impressive feats of their protagonists. Like, that ends up kind of driving so much of the story. And the issue is that, The issue is that so often these protagonists are just not very impressive people. Now, I don't have an issue with a character in a story, like a protagonist having to grow with time. That's kind of normal, right? But if you take a look at reality and, like, revolutionary leaders and, like, military leaders and stuff like that from reality, they tended to be pretty impressive people from the get-go. Like, there aren't that many stories of dopey idiots, like, achieving and becoming, like, the coolest people ever, you know? Usually these people were pretty, like, intelligent and charismatic from the start, and they built their way up from there. So I like it when... Do you think One Piece falls into that thread? No, because Luffy is impressive. Luffy might be an idiot, but in the cartoony world that he's in, he's obviously impressive in the context of the story that he's in. The One Piece universe is naturally really, really, really goofy. And because of that, you know, him being dumb doesn't really matter. What matters is his, like, inhuman confidence and like, power to unite people. That's what I mean. Like, he's noteworthy in that respect, in the context of the world that he's in. But it bothers me when you have worlds that are meant to be driven by politics and intrigue, like ReZero, and then you have, like, stupid simp retards, like, whatever the fuck that guy's name is, and he's the one who's gonna, like, master the system? Are you fucking joking? Like, do you understand what I'm talking about here? Like, oh yeah, dude, this world is full of grim, dark intrigue, and the person who will rise to the top is this fucking idiot who mid-season 2 is still acting like a teenager but less intelligent. That's what I liked about Naruto. I haven't finished Naruto. I've only seen the first series, not Naruto Shippuden. Give us a good isekai premise, please. No, it's not about whether or not the premise is good or not. I'm only saying that it seems like so often characters in these stories bumble into success. Does that make sense? Even in the times when they're supposed to be acting impressive, it's very unrealistic that would be impressive. Have you guys ever seen, like, a big charismatic speech in a story and kind of cringed? Because the speech is really bad, but in the story the characters treat it like it's really good. Like you have you have all these people who are like really battle worn, and like the protagonist is like, this is we fight together. It's like really generic and really uninteresting, but then everyone loses their shit and like they all rise up together, whatever. Stuff like that really bothers me. If a person is charismatic enough to rally an army, they should be charismatic. To me, having a person achieve feats of charisma while being shown to be uncharismatic is as unrealistic as a character being shown to be physically weak, but then, like, randomly punching through a wall. Does that make any sense? It'd be like having a character who's, like, never shown doing anything more impressive than lifting a heavy backpack, and then randomly, at a narratively essential moment, they swing their arm and, like knock a tank off a bridge or something. And I'm like, oh, are we going to justify that? And they don't. No, they don't. It just happens because it's, like, narratively necessary for it to happen. Charisma's harder to deal with narratively, though, because you have to write charisma, which is more difficult than writing strength. Writing strength, you can literally just say, and they're super strong. But writing charisma, you have to write out that charisma, or at least describe its effects, which is more difficult. But, I mean, that's the cost of writing. That's what writing is. When you're writing, you have to write. Nice try, Swagnar! But I'm not done. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. Oh, actually, that's another thing that I really, really liked about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a really great example of what I'm talking about. The characters in Lord of the Rings, I feel like they exhibit feats proportional to their narrative weight, right? The thing that made the Hobbits, Sam and Frodo, you know, noteworthy was that they could easily, well, not easily, but they could resist temptation. You know, they were noble and simple. And that ended up being what carried them all the way through the story. There wasn't a point in Lord of the Rings where they, through tremendous charisma, united a people, or through great strength overcame an obstacle. You know, there were times when they had to be strong or charismatic, but the strength of their character is rooted in something which we see, which is their humility, you know, their decency as people. I really, really like that. Likewise with all the members of the Fellowship, it's really, really clear. The things that make them strong are the things we see making them strong. Does that make sense? Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this is registering. Merry and Pippin were charismatic with the Ents. Right, but when Merry and Pippin were charismatic with the Ents, they did so in a Hobbit-like way. The way they acted with the Ents was really, really in line with their characters. It's not like they did some big, like, you know, heroic bullshit or whatever. It wasn't some giant feat of bravery that swayed the Ents. It was like their honest, down-to-earthness. Nobody else could have persuaded the Ents because the Ents didn't want to get involved in the Wars of Men. It took the simple hobbits to bring them into the conflict because, you know, does that make sense? Like, everything they do, it's rooted in what we see of them that makes them impressive. And I really, really like that. Yeah, it just seems like, yeah, just there are a lot of characters in anime especially, but in plenty of, like, different types of media where this just doesn't happen. Another example of this being done well is the Witcher series. In both the books and the games, Geralt does not lead men. He does not, like, have a moment where everyone is defeated, but he rallies them with his charisma. He is not charismatic. That is not a skill that he has. In the books, whenever there's like a big like event where it seems like a charismatic person could like rally people, he just leaves. Because he knows he's not that person. And I like that. Because that's what he would do. Like, he's been around for a long time. He's been around for long enough. Yeah, Kahir carried that, Quoteth, in terms of charisma. Like, Geralt grunts his way... Oh, no. Geralt grunts his way through, like, 90% of the fucking disagreements he has with people. Oh, if you guys want another example of this being done well, Attack on Titan. I'm only going to spoil the, I'm only going to spoil the first season here of Attack on Titan for those of you who haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen and read the whole thing. In terms of shown charisma, there are two things that come to mind. Actually, three things, okay? We can compare and contrast the charismatic abilities of three characters. Levi, what's his name? Arwen? The white guy with the blonde part, the side part? I'm forgetting the names right now. Erwin, not Arwen, thank you. Levi, Arwen, and Mikasa. And all three of them, at different points in the first season, have to command people, and they do it in very different ways. When Erwin talks, both in the manga and in the show, his charisma is, in my opinion, legitimately demonstrated. Erwin is demonstrated as charismatic, and they show it, and they prove it, okay? They don't just tell you he's charismatic. He doesn't just show up and people rally behind him. He's charismatic. They clearly sell you on that, you know? Mikasa, midway, or I think towards the latter bit of the first season, has a point where everyone's getting fucked up in that big battle, and she has to, like, rally her troop because she's the strongest of them. And her rallying speech is literally just, I'm better than you, so stick with me and you get to live. Which is really fitting for her character. Mikasa isn't a public speaker. She's never demonstrated the ability to speak publicly. So when she has to rally people, she relies on the only actual thing she has, her innate physical superiority, and just expresses that. That is literally her speech. She's basically like, I know you're all afraid you're going to die, but I'm not afraid I'm going to die because I'm really strong. So if you all stick with me, maybe my confidence will, you know, will carry you as well. And it's like, damn, I guess that is how an incredibly strong but not particularly charismatic person would sell their case. And then finally you have Levi, the strongest one, who never attempts to lead at all. At any point. There are so many, like, everyone falls to Levi in the goddamn show. Like, everyone does. He's the strongest of them. And he feels like at any point he could say something to, like, rally them, but he doesn't because he can't talk for shit. He's just not charismatic, you know? Does that make any sense? Or to put it another way, I feel like in the first season of Attack on Titan, they did a good job of proportioning people's speaking abilities to the level of charisma they've demonstrated in show. Levi doesn't say anything. He just does shit. It feels like he should be able to rally people, but he just doesn't talk, you know? Yeah, there's just a lot of really good stuff there. Yeah. So that's my point. Yeah, okay. I was kind of rambling here. Better Call Saul is a great example of charismatic protagonist anime. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Even Walter White has some very selective charisma. All right, I'm going to turn the TTS back on now that I've had my rant.